Hey everyone, this is it, the end of the summer. Now, before I dive fully into my new semester, I took one last opportunity to go to the beach. Rockaway Beach in Queens. Something that I do not get a chance to do a lot these days. In fact, once a regular school semester begins, like now, I barely have enough time to sleep ever since I began this YouTube channel. I never realized how much work is required in editing videos and putting everything together, but still, at the end of the day, it's worth it. I remember making one of my videos like 6 months ago and saying that I even enjoy having 20 or 30 views on a video. Now, even though this is still a very tiny channel, the views I get in one day used to be the views I got in 1 week. And I'm slowly approaching 1,000 subscribers, so the channel is growing and faster each month. I was not ready for something like this. I really wasn't. I mean, of course, in the back of my mind, I sometimes fantasized about having like a big YouTube channel and lots of subscribers and views. I think who wouldn't, right? But these were really just temporary thoughts which lasted for like 10 seconds. And then it was back to reality. But it's just amazing how this is growing. So thank you all so much for your support, your views, your likes. I have been receiving more comments, more emails, and really it's an amazing experience. I do not advertise this channel, but I did create an Instagram page where I post an image on Saturdays of the place I will show you on Sunday. So if anyone would like to play like a guessing game where the next location is going to be, I guess you can do so. I also mentioned to some of you that I will travel to specific location, and I promise I will do so. However, it's based on my schedule and proper permissions. When I started this channel and I had like 20, 50 subscribers, you could make the argument that this channel was for educational purposes. And usually it's not a big deal to record places. But once you have like a bigger YouTube channel, then it becomes commercial purpose and you need proper permissions to record. You can record things from the outside when you are in a public area, but if you want to show something on the inside, different rules apply. So in some cases, this is the reason I did not get to do some of the videos just yet. Even this summer, I had so many ideas and I didn't get through half of them. But you know what? Like they say, Rome was not built in one day, and so I cannot show you everything in few short months, but I will get to it. But being at Rockaway Beach, I got an idea. Let me show you the Riis Park and Fort Tilden, which was nearby. And so the next day I woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and that is what this video is about. The reason I had to come here so early was because after 8 o'clock in the morning, people begin to come to the beach, as it's still pretty hot here in New York City. And as you know by now, I try to respect others' privacy as much as I can. So the last thing I would want is building some sandcastle by the ocean and then some weird dude behind me running up, putting my face on YouTube, right? And since before 8 o'clock in the morning it's kind of chilly and windy, I thought that no one is gonna really be here, and I was correct. But since I did not want to carry my hoodie around later, I froze my butt off for like the first 30 minutes in a short sleeve shirt. Riis Park really has a beautiful beach. Today, this beach and Rockaway Beach I showed you earlier are one of the most popular beaches here in New York City area. In fact, this beach was always very popular with New Yorkers. Check out this throwback picture of pure chaos and traffic over the Marine Parkway Bridge, which connects Brooklyn to this area. Here's the bridge. Completed in 1937, it's a vertical lift bridge, which means the roadway moves up in order to allow ships to pass below. So a popular spot for years now with New Yorkers, and also it has this iconic bathhouse that you see here. It was completed in 1932 in this, what is called the Art Deco architectural style. So the same style you would see with the Chrysler Building or the Empire State Building, as this type of architecture was very popular in the 1920s and 30s. It's symmetrical, modern, kind of cool, but the building was not used for many years. and was even damaged by Hurricane Sandy, which hit New York City in 2012. But you see now, they are finally restoring it to its former glory days. Once it's complete, it will definitely be worth visiting again. A short distance away, you can see the Wise Clock, a gorgeous clock built in 1891. It was moved around in few locations in Brooklyn, but finally found its home here at the beach. Being here, exposed to the salty water, sand, wind, I could just imagine the headache of restoring it, preserving the pieces like this, but it's something that catches your eye even from a distance. Here next to the restrooms, we have a bust of Jacob Riis, after who this area is named. He was born in Denmark and came to New York City in his early 20s, eventually becoming known as muckraker, who were essentially journalists that exposed wrongdoings of government officials or institutions, such as how badly people were treated in mental institutions, or in the case of Jacob, their poor living conditions in New York City buildings. His first book, which was published in 1890, was called How the Other Half Lives, and it was a contributing factor to the city passing better housing laws and fire codes in buildings. How do I know this? Well, when I used to teach history of New York City a few years ago, this was the book assigned to read in my course. Here is another example called The Jungle by Upton Sinclair, which exposed the meatpacking industry in Chicago. Things like workers falling into meat grinders, sick cows being slaughtered, and corrupt inspectors. You know, normal Tuesday stuff. But definitely worth the read. Aside from the beach, there are numerous other activities here, like a big playground for the kids, basketball courts, and even a golf course. But we are walking past all of that, and we will come across Fort Tilden, which is a deactivated military base since 1974, and today is maintained by the National Park Service. One thing I really began to realize while doing this channel is how much in the city the National Park Service is actually responsible for and maintains. It's kind of interesting. Fort Tilden was named after Samuel Tilden, who was a governor of New York, a very interesting figure. I don't know his whole biography or accomplishments, but I know some stuff because he contributed to fighting corruption in the city, especially ending the reign of this corrupt politician known as William Tweed. But I thought that maybe I can dive a little bit more into his life in some future video, as I will show you what used to be his home in Manhattan. For today, I want to focus on Fort Tilden itself. Now again, like I mentioned a few times on this channel already, as I do these videos, I want to take you along with me on these trips as if we would be walking together. So again, I'm not doing like detailed research for these videos, just like sometimes I mention, like dates for example, or few things once in a while I look up in the books that I have at home. But it would be impossible to know everything about everything, right? When I began teaching, so about 12 years ago or so, I was very uncomfortable with saying to the students the words, "I don't know," right? I felt like some might look down upon me, or I will not feel like adequate enough to teach. But as I got older, I got a lot more comfortable with saying, "I don't know." In fact, no one knows everything, and even sometimes when I visit museums, for instance, I see mistakes. Not many, but once in a while, something catches my eye. So I got to the point in my life where I feel I have proven enough to myself and hopefully to others that I am a serious scholar and someone who is worthy to be called a professor. Now I no longer feel weird by saying I don't know. But Fort Tilden is one of those places I don't know the whole story behind. And for example, in college, if I was to give a lecture on it, or this would be a big part of a lecture or something like that, then yes, I would have to read through few books and articles, not just about the fort itself, but history of World War I and II and the Cold War, all of which played a role in shaping this place into a military installation. So, I do know that Fort Tilden was created in 1917 during World War I, and I do not really know anything about this location before that time period. However, my guess is that there had to be some sort of a military presence here for like the War of 1812 even, or something like that, because of the location itself on the map, a really forward position before reaching the defenses in Brooklyn or Staten Island. I mean, it would absolutely make sense from a military point of view, but I don't know, I'm just guessing. But you know what really bothers me about this building? No, not that it has plywood in the windows, it's that window on the second floor above the door. My question is, who painted it? I mean, yes, I painted windows and things like French doors, and I know it's a pain in the butt, but come on, use a scraper, get some of that paint off the glass. Yes, my dear viewers, these are the things that drive me nuts. Here we have a chapel, plenty of room for military exercises, but I am interested in that building in the background, so let's go there. Along the way, though, we have the theater building. And we come to the building, a hangar that is falling apart. Now, I'm not sure if I'm correct, but I think I heard somewhere that this hangar is going to be demolished. And looking at it from up close, I don't think this could really be saved or restored in any way. Just way too much damage. And as you see, I'm sure some go inside of the building, you have lots of graffiti, but I would be careful with places like this because as you see here, there is some asbestos materials in the building, but more importantly, you never really know in what kind of a shape everything is in, especially being exposed to for years to the salty water and not being maintained. A small piece of sheet metal falling from a second story can easily kill you if you find yourself in the wrong place and the wrong time. The fort was expanded on during World War II and hundreds of people were stationed here, along with anti-aircraft guns, which I will show you some of their positions in just a moment. During the Cold War, so in the 1950s or so, the anti-aircraft guns were replaced by Nike missiles. After all, Nike is the goddess of victory in Greek mythology. A big reason is that the big World War II era anti-aircraft guns were just not sufficient in shooting down jet airplanes. Jet airplanes were able to fly much faster and higher, making certain defenses obsolete. Hence, Nike missiles for coastal defenses were now being used. Later, the missiles got better, the Nike Hercules missiles, which were capable of traveling, I think, almost 100 miles, which means that an enemy aircraft would have been shot down before they reach anywhere close to New York City. And they were capable of carrying nuclear warheads. Few locations in and around New York City had these missiles positioned and ready to go. Going into the 1960s, even these missiles became old and obsolete because now you had the ICBMs, the Intercontinental Ballistic Missiles, which were capable of traveling over 3,000 miles. And now let me show you those batteries where the guns were positioned. So first on the path is Battery East. Cool. These casemates were built during the Second World War to protect the guns from enemy airplanes. We have some steps here which we can use to go on top and enjoy the views. Now, if you're like 100 pounds and you're very light as a feather, this is not bad. But otherwise, some steps you feel like are bending under your weight. So if this went any higher, it would be an adventurous climb, that is for sure. But the view is beautiful. You have the open ocean on one side, and then from the other side, a nice view of the city and the Marine Parkway Bridge from Brooklyn. So let's walk a bit more on this path to go to Battery West. Now here we don't have any steps to take us to the top, but if I am not mistaken, the guns that were positioned here were the 16-inch coastal artillery guns, which I believe were the biggest coastal defense guns, and they looked somewhat like this. And here in the second battery, you see these hooks on top. You also had this in the previous one that I showed you, but here you just see them a little bit better. And I'm guessing these were used to transport the shells around the gun. Because if these were 16-inch guns that you just saw, that means that each shell that was fired would weigh a lot, more than 1,000 pounds, probably even more than 2,000 pounds. So it's nice to have some sort of a system in place to help you move that much weight around the gun itself. And then you also see the tracks at the bottom on which the gun would be able to move side to side in adjusting its position. On the exact same path as you are walking, there's also two buildings hiding behind the shrubs and trees, and if you don't look closely, you can even walk past them without noticing. So let's see how they look inside. Okay, this is kind of spooky, but just like in movies, the cameraman never dies, right? Let's hope that's true. But there is one building next to each battery. Here is the second one. And they are identical. And they have some tracks inside, so I'm guessing maybe they were used for ammunition storage or something of that nature. I would actually have to look that up, but that would be my initial guess. And as you continue walking on the path, you come out to the road, which has a small parking lot, which is used by those who have fishing permits. And from the beach itself, you can also see some other crumbling battery structures. The ones I showed you are behind these ones. So I will try to drag myself back to the car, but I hope you enjoyed this video and location, and like always, I hope all of you have a nice, safe week, and I will see you soon in some other location here in New York City. Bye-bye.